Hello, I hope you all are doing so well. I wanted to talk a little bit about this amazing energy that we're feeling. Hopefully, you're feeling. If not, get in here and tap into it because it's a refuge from the storm. But also, this is all about you anchoring in your source light field here into this planetary realm. So, one of the things I've been shown, and it keeps coming up now over and over again, is there's really not one source light. What I've seen, what I've been shown, what I have seen through other people's fields recently as well, all kind of confirming the same thing, which is, look, it is a process that you have to go through to create your own source light field. And the way that you do this is by going through, there are certain universal energy laws, right, which cannot be changed. And so part of what you do as an energy is that you work with this, right? And you learn how to hone what essentially becomes what I see as a source light pillar, right? Which is this, let's say a descension. It's not really descending energy, but it's like bringing this down into the matter state. But there's also like the experimentation you have to go through to realize what works and what doesn't work. And what that is, it really comes through as a feeling, in a sense, that this is fully in alignment with me and this is a little bit off, right? And you can go in this direction, which I just tend to call kind of miscreation, right? Because it's creation, but it's not in full alignment with your energy. And yet along the way, we have to learn the difference of what this is. And once you master this creational tone, this is almost where it's like a supernova kind of explosion experience, and you create your source origin field from where you are able to create quite intentionally, right? By virtue of having mastered this through your own energy. So, lots of things with this, right? Which means that everyone is having their own experience. Not all of us have mastered a source light field range. And we can go off on these routes of miscreation if we so choose. And if we think about it from this perspective, it kind of explains everything that's going on right now. So, where do you fall in this, right? It's about, and this is what I've been going through for the last 2 to 3 weeks now. Whoa, what's my placement and everything that's happening in the world right now, right? And I said I kind of had this moment of like, oh yeah, I remember thinking, until the world is falling apart, my work doesn't really make sense. I don't really make sense. I don't really fit here unless the world is falling apart, right? Because my energy, my expression wants to show that there's a different way of being rather than following the path of trauma and wounding, right? So, but yet people aren't ready to look at that until something like this is occurring in the physical reality, right? People aren't seeking out refuge from the chaos unless we actually have chaos going on in the streets, right? So it's like, this is now, this is this moment. And many of us are being asked to recognize this and to plug fully and completely into our own source light fields here within the physical realm, right? So we've been like dabbling back and forth and like, do I belong out there? Do I belong in here? How am I, what does this mean for me as a human being, right? So being called, and this doesn't mean like going into hermit and locking yourself in your house and not being a part of society. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about, where is your energy aligning to? Are you now coming into the truth of your light and your understanding of who you are, which you've always known all along, but maybe kind of discredited it or wasn't quite sure because you weren't getting that validation, right? Which this is all part of this process we've been going through, right? Our first lifetime in this life, prior to 2020, right? But we're in our second lifetime now. So taking all of that and coming in to the center of our field and saying, oh, I get it now. I see why I'm here, right? So it's this refinement of our energy. And what does that mean? That means wherever we're feeling these kind of agitations or these little grains of sand in our energy, right? It's about either recognizing what we still need to release for ourselves, or recognizing that this is like an external component that's coming in that we need to say no to, right? Because that's a huge part of this work too, is also recognizing that what we have previously identified as ourselves has actually been a whole lot of crap within our own source field, right? So also filtering out all that is not actually us. And it hasn't really been until this time that we've been able to physically experience what it's like to be a light being in a matter state, which is not in alignment with source light, right? So this is almost like a trial by fire kind of, needing to level up very quickly, needing to recognize this, even though we've been working towards this and building towards this all along, right? But it's like, okay, wake up in your consciousness now, see what's happening, understand where your placement needs to be. Because some of the things I've been being shown is that, look, essentially, there's not one source light, right? We are each a source light field. And the way that you create that is actually to go through the process of learning how to harness energy, right? So there is like this pillar that gets built as you come in more and more to your mastery and you hone your skills of creation in alignment with your own field, right? So you create an alignment with your own field, and you know this feeling, right? This is when, and you know this through the human experience too, it's like you feel that resonance, you feel that something is full, like this fits fully and completely, right? That's you creating and working in accordance with the truth of who you are as an energy field, right? But there is also this learning curve, which is, okay, I'm creating, but that doesn't feel quite right, right? So there is this opportunity to miscreate, and there is that opportunity to kind of get lost in those ranges, right? Which kind of explains everything that goes on in the world. It's like, within this mastery and this integrity, the only way that you can actually kind of come into these matter states in your full alignment is that you have actually reached the foundation of what it means to be a source light being, right? And by virtue of doing that, it is this kind of, like I said, a supernova explosion into a source light field now, which you can anchor fully and completely here. And yet there are those who kind of can get lost, or they haven't fully mastered, so they're still on this path of needing to come back to themselves, right? But they're not there yet, so they're kind of in these alter ranges of distortion or miscreation or whatever kind of journey they're on. But then the light always has to come back to itself, right? It always gets called back. So there's really no mistake. In the physical state, it can feel like that, right? But this is also what we're doing here. It's to anchor the truth of what a source light field is, right? To show by example that this is a possibility for everyone to come back to. And so we can see then where we're really being called to anchor into this truth rather than getting distracted by the miscreation that's out. Like, you've already gone through that. You already understand the pain and suffering of that. And to not forget through your human consciousness that that's not what you're here to do. You're here to fully plug into this now within the physical realm, this state of being that you are, and to hold this space, right? So it's a little bit different than maybe what's been expressed before. And so in doing this, this is really what I have felt to call these grace light fields, which is that, okay, you're not anchoring into a field of something else. You're anchoring into your own self. But you've worked really hard to create that and be able to bring that here in this time and space, right? So this is not a small thing. It's like, take up who you truly are and be present here in this energy, right? This is phenomenal, magnificent energy. And yet a lot of us, I think, are getting a little bit confused, right, by what's going on out there. And yet it's like, hold on a second. Like, all these lifetimes we talk about Atlantis, we talk about Lemuria, we talk about all these kinds of things, and all the the ways we've been murdered and had heads chopped off and been executed and been tortured, and we just love to kind of grovel in that, right? Like, oh my God, I was killed and murdered so many times. It's like, yes, for this purpose now, so stand in that. Take ownership of that. And become present here through your human form, all that you truly are. This is what it's like to be an emissary of the grace light field, which is you plugged into your own knowledge and understanding because you've been through this process already. It's just a matter of anchoring that now into the physical reality. And this is where I was saying in my last video, like, okay, if you're having trouble doing this, look at it from a perspective of soul healing or Akashic record reading or whatever it is, right? Like this first lifetime that we've had, which is up until 2020, right? Like this journey, this understanding, this learning we've been having to go through. Now look back at that and say, okay, what was the big lesson? Or what is even the lesson I'm coming up to now, which is saying, I don't want to be in my light. I've been so traumatized. I'm scared. There's all these programs running. Well, yeah, can you see that now this world is showing us, it's giving us this physical opportunity to actually face all these things in real time and to claim our space again, right? To claim our light. Okay, I'm not going through that again. I want to be released from all this. And how do you get released from it? It's not actually even to release from it. It's to say, oh, okay, this is what I am. I am this light field. I actually have worked really darn hard to be here now at this time. And I'm not going to get pulled out and distracted by what's going on in the physical reality. Because actually the only reason we're here is because of what's happening in the physical reality, but that's not what we're here to fix. It's to show that, again, this process of building a source light field, this is what it is. It's a possibility for everyone. And also understanding these fields of miscreation that are going on in real time, right? So, boom, this is like internship 101 here going on. Even though this whole time it's like, oh, it's going to be, splitting of the worlds, it's 3D moving into 5D. I guess you could label it that way, but yet in real time, in a physical human body, how does this actually happen? It doesn't happen like that. You don't just float up into another dimension, right? You anchor in that light through your own experience, through who you are, through your presence of being. And this word grace, I think it's so beautiful because what is that really about, right? This is about recognizing, first of all, if you don't have grace for your own self, there's no way you're going to be able to disseminate this or to share this with anyone else, right? And what this means is that, well, you've been through this process and you understand what it's like to miscreate and the pain and suffering of miscreation. You also understand how challenging it is to come back into full alignment because of all the distortions and all the messages and all the transmissions that are out there that want to keep you out there, right? Because it seems easier actually than coming back and trusting your own self. And so grace is about understanding that, and about understanding that not only have we had to go through it, but this is what other beings are going through now, right? It's not to say, oh, they're so whatever, like they just don't get it. The world is going to hell, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, the world is already, it's the hell experience, right? Because it is separation from your own light. If you're not in conscious awareness of your source light field, right? So you can be a source light being and yet consciously be unaware and separated out from that, which is a hellish experience. In fact, it's the worst kind of experience because you're awake within disconnect. And that's incredibly scary, especially with the level of mind control, mind programming we could have going on here in this realm, right? So, but it's to understand that, okay, we've anchored this in, connect into it, find your space within this. It's here. We are here now. We've made the conscious connection. and that you can tap into this and you can find, it just feels like a plugging into your own self, right? Coming back into your own abode, your own temple, which is what your body is, right? It's your temple for your light field, which is quite brilliant. And once you start to uptake this, you start to actually feel the physical power of your energy field inside of you in a way that you have yet to have experienced in this lifetime. So, to not get distracted by the external physical reality, because actually this is serving you to define, redefine, right? And in that, what does it mean to refine, right? It's letting go of all these grainy little pieces of distortion that you're feeling, right? If something isn't feeling neutral, there's something going on there, and it's either something you need to be aware of within yourself, or something from the external that's trying to come in to confuse you, and or trying to take up space within your own energy, right? And if this is something you're actually struggling with too, I don't know if I ever mentioned, but I finally posted a on my website there. I made it's a daily clearing, but I made it so that there's this initial long version, which is like the weekly version. So it's maybe about 40 minutes long. Okay, but then I made the daily version to go along with that. So you have to do this weekly version, really, to get the full effect of it. Okay, like at least once a week to go through this full kind of clearing. And then there's a daily version, which is shorter, which you can use on a daily basis. So it links back to this template that you're creating in this weekly version. So it's like taking a shorter piece of that then and compressing it to use, of course, we don't all have 40 minutes every day, right, to do the clearing. But so if you're interested, and that's to help, right, clear this other stuff. Again, it's always about reclaiming, redefining, this is me as light being, everything else needs to move out. Which, you know, for most of us, we don't know what our own energy field feels like because we were born into all this other stuff in our energy, right? So we've lived this experience thinking, I am me, I am myself, whatever's going on is just me struggling and having blah, 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 not realizing it's really usually 80 to 90% other people's crap, other kinds of energies that are just hanging out, right? So, and that's why I kind of created this so that I can refer people and say, look, if you're really struggling with external stuff, use this. But I do recommend if you're going to buy or you're trying to choose, it's buy the weekly version. It's just by virtue of, I don't know, I couldn't figure out how to link the whole thing together, but I wanted them to be two separate things, so I had to do it that way. And I'm sure there's a better way, which I just haven't figured out yet. So if you're going to buy anything at all, do the weekly version. The daily version will be useless to you without the weekly version. So I just wanted to put that out there. But that is also, you know, a tool to help you with this process. And I lost where I was going with that. But anyway, but that is a part of what's happening now, right? Is to recognize that's what the refinement is, right? It's letting go of all this other stuff we have previously identified as ourselves, right? It's like, you know, previously known as, yeah, I thought I was Paige, but I was Paige with all this garbage and crap in me, which I didn't realize was not a part of who I was, right? So it's refining who I am in my conscious knowing as well, right? And so once you become consciously aware of that, it becomes easier and easier to recognize when something is kind of infiltrating or affecting you. And then to just, okay, it becomes easier and easier to push this out. So the power though of so these fields are anchoring, right? We're sending out kind of this collective beacon, which is saying, okay, come into your field, anchor in fully here now. You can connect into yourself, feel into yourself. But this is something that really hasn't been done yet before, because everyone's so kind of, oh, the collective fields and the whatever field, you know, I don't even know. But this is the way I'm seeing it. We're all our own expression of source light, which means that it's not all the same. And yet there's a, let's say a similar energy in this which runs through all of these fields, right? This is why we can connect to other beings and be like, oh my God, you're so familiar to me. And then of course, this idea of like soul groups, whatever, we have these same kind of underlying tones within the field. but it's not exactly the same, right? So there's no real like collective source field to necessarily plug into. We all have to come into our own alignment of what that is, and then we can connect to other beings who are within that knowing, right? So, and actually until we fully connect into that understanding and that feeling and that remembrance within ourselves, it's really hard to find other people that are a match to that, because we're really just then out in these other ranges of like all this garbage and stuff, right? So, but we hold that knowing like, oh my God, this is not right. Like it should be something much different. This experience sucks. Like this isn't what it's supposed to be like. Yep, that's all this other stuff going on, right? So come back into the remembrance of you as a source light creator being field, these grace light fields, right? This is you plugging into your own self here, into the physical matter state, being fully present within your own light. But you're so much more than just a light in a physical human body, right? You have this whole huge field. Only a portion of it is existing here in this human body, right? So you are your own source light field, which is massive. And not to forget this, of course we have, right? But this time right now, these next 2 to 3 months, I'm seeing for a lot of people, this is this kind of, it's coming home, right? It's this homecoming. It is this arrival in through the human consciousness, in through the human body. And then once you really plug into yourself, oh my God, the miraculous, like things happen overnight that you're like, how did my mind even get here to be able to comprehend this energy right now? Like it's miraculous, and it's unbelievable. And it's, again, never how we quite think it's going to play out at all, right? But we have to try to imagine, people would talk about, oh, the splitting of the world, or it's like 3D moving into 5D and this kind of thing. It's not really like that at all. At least in my experience, right? It's not. It's been something much more exciting and much more fun. And even just experiencing it with my kids too, my daughter. And it's little things. It's not like, oh my God, suddenly I just have my dream home. Like I woke up in my dream home, But even with my daughter, it's like, she's on her permit still, so learning to drive. And the other day we did drive-throughs for the first time. And she's so like, she has this anxiety, so she's afraid of talking to people and this whole thing she's been going through. And then we just suddenly ended up in a drive-through, right? And she's like, oh my God, okay. But the funny thing is like her energy, even though, and I always say this, it's like our greatest skill, our greatest asset also becomes our greatest like disability in the physical realm. And she has the most beautiful personality, which I've always known, but yet I don't really get to see her like out in the world so much, especially because she kind of tends to fall back and doesn't like to be, she's very outgoing, but also she's very shy and can be very anxious, but it was just fascinating, even through a speaker at a drive-through, to see how disarming her energy is, which this is what we need in the world right now, right? It's not about necessarily like, I need to go and I need to create change and tell people to like get on board and figure this out for themselves so we can stop all this rioting and whatever else is going on, right? It's not really even about that. It's about being in our own space of our light, fully connected to who we are, right? And to see this young girl, or not even see, right? It was just hearing these interaction that she has with people through a speaker at a drive-through, and to hear them, it's almost like you can physically feel how much they just melt into her energy, because she's so sweet and kind and loving. And it's just like, who would have thought that you can spread love? I mean, I know we know this is possible, right? But it's like, also up until this time, people have not been hungry for this, right? Like we've kind of been shoved into the corner and like, we don't want your light, you trigger us, you make us really mad when we're around you because you bring up the light, right? Which means you're bringing up the darkness and distortion within people, which has been her experience. It's like she has been really attacked because she is just so loving and so open, you know. But to see now that people are hungry for that energy, like it just, my heart, like overflowing with gratitude to be in this space now where it's like our energy is finally welcomed, desired, needed in this physical reality now. So come into this understanding and this awareness. This is who you are. This is why you're here. And not to look out into the external reality and say, where do I fit in to that? Like, you don't need to fit in. You just need to be. And people will start to flock to that. Once you feel this, right, and tune into this and plug into who you are as this reality, right? So it's kind of like it's like internship 101 right now, right? Like we've been building, we have so much knowledge, we understand, we see what's going on, we've been waiting for this, we've been building up to this, right? And now it's like, oh, suddenly you have to go do the math problem on the board in front of the class, whereas before it was just at your desk, right? So it's like this kind of frantic, like, oh my goodness, it's really here now. But it's really here now. So to get into that energy, it's so much fun to play with. Yeah, it's a, you know, for looking, it can be a bit, oh my goodness, what the heck, it's a bit scary right now. But truly, if you're plugging into your own self, into your own field, into your own energy, it can be really, really fun, and you can really enjoy and just have this fun experience with it. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you're able to feel this and plug into this. I'm hoping to do like a light language thing a little bit later to assist with this alignment to your own self, to your own field. This is why you're here. This is what you came here for. So dive into this. Enjoy it. Enjoy your expression of who you are. It's a good day to be reborn into your own light. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Take good care. We'll talk soon.